Hey guys, Ted Ludwig here. I hope everyone's doing well out there. I hope everyone's safe and healthy with this quarantine that we're all dealing with. And I just wanted to share my favorite subject with you guys outside of playing music, which I post quite a few videos of performances and such. And that would be guitars. I love guitars, and I have some really nice guitars, and I just wanted to share with you guys my favorites. I was going to show just one, and I can't do that because I've got 5 favorites. So I was just going to share those guitars and let everyone get to see them and see kind of how they're built. So this first instrument, I'll just get right to it. This first instrument is made by the great Linda Mainzer. Linda is known by many people in the guitar world as being the queen of luthiery. She's built some of the best flat tops and arch tops on the market today. And this is my Mainzer. This is a 7-string guitar that she built for me. This is called her Jazz Cat model. This is her Jazz Cat. Although I had some customizations done, I wanted it to look more like the Absinthe, where it had the big bold block inlays in the fingerboard and the orchid in the headstock and her beautiful scroll that she does. All that's hand done in the guitar. And then I really wanted this beautiful red color. It's rich, deep, gorgeous red color. You can see the wood. This is actually flame maple. All of her woods are European wood, so this is European flame maple on the sides and then on the back. And as you can see, as I turn this guitar, you can see that wood just pop. The same on the neck. Look at the neck wood. Single piece neck, and goes all the way down through the headstock. And so it has black ebony binding, which really sets off, makes it have a real kind of a dark motif to it. It's real rich. I use this guitar a lot. It has a Ken Armstrong PAF 0 pickup for 7 strings. So it's a 7-string extension. So it's like a normal 6-string PAF 0 pickup with another set of pull pieces to accommodate the 7-string. All ebony appointments. So it's an ebony tailpiece, ebony bridge, and pick guard, and then the volume and tone is hidden underneath. Let's see, and anything else? Let's see. Oh, of course, then brass anchor with the jack back here. And so this is the Mainzer, and this guitar, her name is Rosie. All my guitars have names. So this is Rosie, and many of you guys seen me play her out on gigs and such. So, and I'll just play her just a little bit. It's not a performance video. This is just to show you the guitars. So I'm gonna actually plug into my trusty Peter Hendrickson Bud amp right down here. And these little amps are fantastic. Just great for gigs, great for playing at home. They have a warm tone. They really translate a natural sound from the guitar. Pick up a lot of that acoustic voice that these instruments have. So I'll just play a little bit on this for you. So the thing I really love about this guitar is the upper end. This upper end is just like insane. Listen to how the notes just pop out of this thing. Put the 7-string in. Sweet instrument. I use this guitar all the time, and could not be more happy with this one. It's got a sound port on the side too, which is really cool because a lot of the acoustic sound comes up to my ear. So when I'm playing, I can not only hear what's going on electronically, but I can also hear what's going on acoustically. And you know, Linda does such a great job of carving her instrument. She puts such a beautiful recurve. If you can kind of see in the glare how it's almost like a speaker, this instrument. Just exquisite. And you know, if you ever have a chance to meet Linda or try out her guitars, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'd read articles about how Pat Metheny, you know, when he got his Mainzers, how inspired he was. And when I tried Linda's guitars for the first time, it had the same effect on me. It was just an incredible instrument. 17-inch bout from here to here. And I want to say the side depth is maybe right around 3 inches, something like that. It's not super deep, but just you know, it's perfect. Love this guitar, and I'm going to show you guys some other ones. So let me just go ahead and unplug. It takes me just a second to put one down and get the next one out. So the next guitar I want to show you guys, and these are in no particular order, but the next guitar I want to show you guys is this one here. This is the Mirabella Crossfire New Yorker. Now this thing, Chris is he's like the Ferrari of the Archtop making world. I mean, he builds like just the most incredibly stunning guitars visually that I've ever seen. Very inspired by late period D'Acquisto. And this has a really rich blood red finish. And this guitar's name is Scarlet. Pretty fitting since the finish is so red. Some really unique features of this instrument are, well, of course, the sound holes are very unique. They're, like I said, it's late period D'Acquisto inspired, but not copied. Chris did not copy Jimmy D'Acquisto's designs. He just created his own, but that are inspired. And he uses the sound bridge, which was a sort of a D'Acquisto invention. Look at this really unique tailpiece. Gorgeous purflings, and the top on this instrument is Italian spruce as well, just like the Mainzer. And look at the bindings. Those bindings are flame maple, and the sides are flame maple along with the back, and that's all European woods. Chris uses nothing but European tone woods on his guitars. Complete now, and that's the other thing too. Chris and Linda both strictly hand carve their instruments. They do not use a CNC. They don't use any kind of duplicators. Everything's hand done on these instruments. Beautiful neck on it. Look at the wood on the neck with a beautiful center seam, and it has like a maple keel cap overlay. And this guitar has like an open headstock design, and this thing is really cool because this right here, this is a truss rod cover that actually spans almost the entire length of the headstock. And what's really cool about this is it's made out of solid piece of aluminum, and Chris actually hand carves that with files. It literally takes him pretty much an entire day of work just to make this one piece on the guitar. That's just like unreal. He has this is like this M is actually like a metal piece of like polished metal that goes inside of the headstock here. That's his logo. And this guitar also has a sound port. Really cool design too. And this is one of Chris's named models. So I don't know if you can, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see it says, well, I kind of could turn it the other way, but it says Scarlet. It's actually, might see it better this, well, yeah, maybe better this way. It says Scarlet in there. There's the S, yeah. So, and this is a really unique instrument. He used a this wooden tail, like this wooden bridge system where there's no metal going in the bridge pins here. There's just wood. So if you're gonna lift the action, you push in this way. If you want the action to come down, you pull out. Of course, you have to loosen the strings. Volume and tone here, and it's the same pickup that's on the other guitar. This is the Mainzer PAF 07 string pickup. My favorite pickup. Inlays are actually red abalone that Chris found on the beach, and it's very faint, but you can see little bits of like kind of pinks and reds in that abalone shell, and he did that to match the red guitar. And then the top part is actually metal. See that top piece is actually metal. Really cool. I'll play this a little bit. This guitar has a real warm tone, real buttery kind of sound. And I've been using this guitar. I just got this guitar about, I guess maybe 6 months ago, and I've been using it increasingly more and more. It's a really incredible guitar. So yeah, check it out. So in this little demo, I'm not going to be playing a lot of songs. I'm just going to play the instrument a little bit, give you guys a chance to hear it. But this guitar is really wonderful. Chris Mirabella makes some really amazing instruments, and he and Linda both are, both building some of the finest guitars on the market. Okay, I'm going to show you guys some more. Let's see what's next here. It just takes me a second to switch them out. Now, this is a really cool guitar as well. This guitar is made by Rebecky. Now, as you notice in the headstock here, Tom told me this little inlay here was actually a California poppy, but in the South, that's a buttercup. That's just how that would be I thought it was a buttercup. And so, and with the color being the color it is, this guitar's name is Buttercup. I thought that would be a pretty cool name. It has this really cool inlay pattern that where it looks like falling paper, like a piece of paper that's falling, and it going all the way down the fingerboard, which I thought Tom did a beautiful job on that. And there's his Rebecky logo. This guitar has European, I think this is Italian spruce top as well. And it has really modern F-holes, much like the Mirabella. And it has what's called a Kasha style bridge. So notice it's wide here and narrower here. That's supposed to be to increase the bass response. Then it has a Ken Armstrong pickup. Now, this one only has a single row of poles, but it is a humbucker. And the volume and tone control are down here, and then this is actually a coil tap, so you can switch to like a single coil type of setting if you wanted to play something a little more funky. It's a pretty versatile guitar, believe it or not. It's got this gorgeous flame myrtle wood back and side. Look at that, and the binding is actually Hawaiian curly koa. But look at the wood on this thing. It's just ridiculous. And I mean, Tom does not spare any expense on his woods. Neither does Chris and Linda. But this is the Rebecky Monterey guitar. Of course, it's a 7-string as well. And this guitar was, of all of the ones I'm going to show you, this was not built for me. It was built for someone else who decided that they didn't want to play 7-string and traded this beautiful instrument in, basically unplayed, and got a 6-string. But that's fine, because I get to enjoy this guitar now, and it's a wonderful, wonderful guitar made by Rebecky. So if Linda Mainzer is the queen of the Archtop world, and Chris Mirabella is the Ferrari of the Archtop world, I would say Rebecky would be the Bill Nye the Science Guy of the Archtop world. And then if anybody's talked to Tom, they'd say, yeah, man, he's like a scientist, like a mad scientist. He's tried everything, all kind of different angles. He's also taught some of the really great up and coming new luthiers out there, such as Megan Wells has studied with Tom. I think Ryan Thorell. There's a bunch of them. Tyler Wells. There's several. Stuart Day. Some of the really great up-and-coming young makers are Tom's students. So I'll play this one just for a little bit and let you check this out. It's got a big sound. It's really rich. Almost has a little bit of like a flat top sound, but not a lot. It's still thick. It's really full guitar, really something special. Rich. It's a fast guitar too, so I mean, you know, Tom built some of the best guitars out there. So I'm really fortunate to have this instrument in my possession, and thanks so much, Tom, for letting me, you know, for working this out so I can have this guitar. Okay, let's move on. So the next guitar that I'm going to show you is one that I've had for a long time, and it was built by one of my dearest friends, the great Jimmy Foster. And if anyone out there knows Jimmy, you know, they know that he's from New Orleans, and that, you know, he was very celebrated in that area as for his work, not only as a maker, but also as a repairman. And Jimmy liked to use, being from New Orleans, he liked to use sort of the things that you would imagine in New Orleans, the fleur-de-lis, the wrought iron, those kind of things that we see when we go to New Orleans. So if you notice on this guitar, fleur-de-lis. Also on the ends of the bridge, you got fleur-de-lis, little fleur-de-lis you would put on the guitar. And the inlays were actually inspired by the New Orleans wrought iron that you see when you go into the French Quarter. So that was something that he really liked, and he really wanted to include those kinds of appointments on his guitar. Now this one, I had him do it in black. He built this for me in 2010. Same pickup, Ken Armstrong, PAF0, best pickups out there for 7-string in my opinion. Of course, they have people that say otherwise, but I think they're fantastic. Jimmy was more of a traditionalist. He liked to make his guitars. His guitars were sort of based off of a Gibson Johnny Smith to start with, and then he made a bunch of adjustments from there. A lot of people don't know this, but most of his guitars were 7-strings. In fact, about 70% of the guitars he built were 7-strings. A lot of people don't know that, but he really was known for that. Known for very slim necks too. This guitar, you don't see any wood grain. Of course, you see some. Man, it's hard to keep these black guitars clean. I need to get this one polished up. But yeah, this one has like basically a Steinway black finish on it, and then it has like more of a plastic binding, more of a traditional. Of the 4 guitars I've showed you so far, Jimmy's is the most traditional, most Gibson-like of all of them. But his guitars do not sound like a Gibson. There are some wonderful makers out there that make guitars that sound much more like a Gibson. But Jimmy's guitars always kind of had his own voice. But he would use the Gibson style bindings like you would imagine on like a Gibson custom shop guitar, you know, or a custom Les Paul or something. And I asked him, I said, Jimmy, I want you to do me one with an Engelmann top. And Jimmy really loved Engelmann. He was a Sitka spruce guy for a while, but he switched to Engelmann. And then this one actually has on the back and side, and you can't see the grain because of the black finish, but he actually used actually very plain maple, and it was domestic. He used plain domestic maple, it's big leaf maple back and sides. And he said he wanted to do it in plain because when he put the finish on, he didn't want to have it to be rippled. Because when you get the figure on, a lot of figure, it tends to make the finish want to ripple a little bit. And he didn't want to deal with that. He wanted it to look real flat, almost like a piano. And so I kind of reminded me of a tuxedo a little bit, but it needs a good polishing. It's got some, I just need to get it polished up here. But I played on this guitar for 10 years, really hard. And I still love to pick her up and play her. Her name is Black Betsy. As you can see why, Black Betsy. That was kind of a little bit of a homage to Peter Bernstein's Brown Betty. I said, well, he's got Brown Betty, I'm gonna do Black Betsy. So we'll play a little bit for you, let you hear Black Betsy. And this guitar is pretty incredible as well. Sweet. It's just a sweet, sweet guitar. And, you know, Jimmy was not as well known as some of the other makers that we've talked about, but he built a really sweet guitar. And he was really known as the working man's guitar maker. He built guitars for all the players in New Orleans. And I'm proud to say he was one of my dearest friends, and I miss him. He died in 2011. So, but this is Jimmy Foster, Crescent City Elite, Black Betsy. And hope you enjoyed that. And then I have one more guitar to show you, but this is not an Archtop. This is actually my nylon string classical guitar that was built for me by a guy up in Canada named David Ryer. And David builds beautiful classical guitars. He's not as well known as he should be as well. He builds double tops, which means that the top is a sandwich of two pieces of spruce, thin, and in the middle there's actually like a honeycomb structure that's made out of they call it Nomex, and so that's what's in the middle of this thing, and it makes it really loud. He put an armrest on this thing. Look at this. So it doesn't actually touch the top, and look at the bear claw on this wood. I don't know if you can see that. Now it's hard to see in the light, but there we go. I think you can see it now. Look at a bear claw in that. Back and sides are Macassar ebony. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? And then he actually put that in the rosette. Of course, the headstock has the Macassar ebony as well, and so does the rear headstock veneer. And then the tuners are actually snake wood. So the wood actually looks like snake skin. If you're not familiar with it, see how in those tuners, it kind of almost looks like snake skin a little bit. But it's a real wood out there. And yeah, it's a full-size classical. I'll play this a little bit so you can hear. This is totally acoustic, of course. Unfortunately, I don't get to play on this guitar enough because 99% of my gigs are jazz, but I love this for bossa nova, and I love using this when I play with my wife, who's a really fine violinist, and so I use this and then she'll, plays the melodies and such. But really sweet guitar. This is the David Ryer Classical, and it also has a sound port, so which is kind of nice. But beautiful instrument. So yeah, that's it. Those are my 5 favorite guitars, and I'm glad you guys stuck around to check it out. And the one thing we need to kind of remember is these luthiers depend on us to make guitars, players and enthusiasts who really love these instruments. And so I know this coronavirus has really hit a lot of musicians very hard, including myself, who basically we've pretty much all lost our gigs. Luckily there's teaching, and we can still teach online and do some online concerts and such. But these makers have also taken a real big hit as well. So when all of this clears up, and it will eventually, there's nothing better than a relationship with one of these makers. Linda Mainzer, there's a bunch of them out there, but Linda, Chris, Mirabella, Tom Rebecky, David Ryer, they all just build spectacular guitars. And of course, the late great Jimmy Foster. If he were around, he would love to work with you. But just having that relationship is really a beautiful thing. So, if you ever get the opportunity to play one of these instruments, it's definitely something that you'll never forget. Go to some guitar shows. That's a great way to try it. Peter Henriksen, the guy that built this little amp I'm using. Peter has a show in Colorado called the Archtop Guitar Show. There's also the Woodstock show up in Woodstock, New York. Those are my 2 favorites to go to. There's the one in La Conner. Now that one's canceled. The Artisan show's also canceled this year. Those were spring shows, and they're canceled because of the coronavirus. But the 2 that I think are still on and hopefully will be on will be Woodstock, which is in October, and the Archtop Guitar Festival, which I've been to both and really, really love going to those shows. So it was great talking to you guys, and hopefully shared a little bit of fun. Please send me some videos of your favorite guitars, and I'd love to see that, because I'm a guitar nerd. Deep down I'm a guitar nerd. Music comes first, but then the guitar. It's just hand in hand. So hope you guys stay healthy, safe, and we'll talk soon. Bye.